What's up, guys? It's Bobby at East Carolina Chrysler Dodge Jeep with East Carolina Rides. I wanted to start the day with a couple messages. I took last week off, and sometimes you need some time away from the car business. I think anybody that's in the business knows we spend a lot of time here, and it was really appreciated. And I missed doing the podcast, of course. This week I had a plan to have a guest. It didn't end up working out. Sometimes last minute things come up, and certainly understandable in this business. We got to be flexible. If we're not flexible, we ain't gonna make it. But I wanted to talk about the relationship between service and sales, and I'm gonna stick with that. The gentleman who is going to join me is in service, and I was going to pick his brain a little bit about what basically goes on in the day-to-day for him. Being in sales, I get a little glimpse because I go back there and I talk with service frequently. And if you're in sales, you need to do the same, if anything, to kind of stay in tune with what's going on in general with the vehicles. But you can meet customers back there. You get to build a relationship with the service writers, and it's opportunities for them to send you somebody that may have a really high shop bill that they can't stand to pay, and are ready to trade. So there's a lot of opportunities back there, and we really in the sales department rely heavily on them to help us with customers that have issues, because look, these cars are not perfect. They're going to have issues. It's a reason warranty exists. Things do go wrong. So there is always, a pro and a con to buying something new. Of course, new, you're going to have a little bit of depreciation when you drive it off the lot, just the nature of the beast. But then you've got the warranties. So, I'm going to just kind of go over what warranties we have, because we sell a few different products, but on the Rams in particular, we've got a special warranty that is the best in the United States for the truck market. We've got a 10-year 100,000 mile powertrain warranty, so that covers your engine, transmission, drive lines, four-wheel drive system, basically your internal lubricated parts, covers those catastrophic failures that can cost a lot of money. And for something that's used for mostly, work for a lot of the folks that I sell to, that's a really nice peace of mind. Even if they don't drive 20, 30,000 miles a year, if they say only drive 5,000 or 6,000 miles a year, they got 10 years to take advantage of that warranty. So fits a lot more people's usage and their needs. And of course, in our other products, we have a 5-year, 60,000 mile warranty in the Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram world. That, of course, is kind of what's standard across the board. And then you also have the bumper-to-bumper warranty, or it's really not a bumper-to-bumper warranty because I don't cover the bumpers, but it does cover almost everything on the vehicle. Covers your non-wearable items for 3 years, 36,000 miles. And that's just, another across-the-board type of warranty, but the other thing that Mopar in particular does is that the Mopar Protection Plan, which within 12 months and 12,000 miles, even your wearable stuff is covered. So you get a lot of coverage when you buy something new. It's one of those advantages, and why I recommend, if you want that peace of mind, you don't want to have to worry about it. Not to say you won't ever have any issues, but at least you don't got to come out of pocket in order to take care of whatever may have gone wrong. Basically, the first 3 years for a lot of folks is worry-free. And then, we do have things like FlexCare, which is starting to be put right on the window sticker. It used to be just on Jeeps that you'd get free oil changes along with the Jeep. And I say free, but, you are sort of paying for it. It's just like anything, just like any of these programs that are out there. When you see you've got lifetime oil changes and that sort of thing, well, you are kind of paying for that. So it may not be apparent because it's not right there on the window sticker like our FlexCare, But in a sense, that's something that is paid for by you somewhere along the lines. And a lot of those programs are to get people back into service, to do the regular things. You have to keep your maintenance up. You have to do the recommended maintenance when it comes up. And I mean, it's already kind of a good idea to do that. But that's where those programs come from. We don't offer it here, but I think there is a little bit of a gimmick involved with it, and we are very transparent. We try to keep things pretty clear cut. But also, just to mention, we do sell Lincoln, and Lincoln has a different warranty than the Chrysler Dodge Jeep side. So luxury vehicles carry a 4-year, 50,000 mile new car basic warranty, or that bumper to bumper type warranty. And then they have a 6-year, 70,000 mile powertrain warranty. So, enough about warranties. So warranty is nice. Service is there to take care of you if you are having issues. We do have certified pre-owned Chrysler Dodge Jeep products as well. And that's just an extra benefit for folks. You get things like roadside assistance too, included with our new products and our certified vehicles. There's just so many benefits of coming to a franchise dealership. But the service side is really what makes this a one-stop shop. So, and not to mention, we do have a parts department, of course, and we've got a body shop. So we truly are a one-stop shop. You can buy your car here. You can get it fixed. If you get into an accident, you can get it repaired. And if you want to buy accessories or you want to upfit your vehicle, you can do that with our parts department. So, at East Carolina Chrysler Dodge Jeep, it's a simple thing. I'm not going to push doing certain extra upfits on your vehicle. If you want to put tires, wheels, and a lift on your Jeep, that's up to you. But one thing that we do is if you get that done here, you're covered using Mopar parts. You're covered for the 3-year, 36,000 mile bumper to bumper type like a warranty. So you do get some extra benefits when you buy it from here, as opposed to going aftermarket and having it done, or say you want to put a leveling kit on, yourself and put some spacers in. You may be risking warranty issues. Not to say you would, but if it relates to the suspension, well, you might be dealing with something that's not covered if you did it yourself. So there's all kinds of benefits like that. And some of the things that I was going to talk to my service writer about, it's just the day-to-day things that he's dealing with. I hear a couple stories going back there, where people are dealing with issues that they didn't expect. They've got really high service bills. Those are sort of the oh no moments. The service writers, I give them a lot of credit. They do have to give bad news quite a bit, and that's one of those things that even in sales, sometimes I'm at that point too, where I have to tell people, hey, look, your vehicle's transmission is slipping, and we got to be kind of careful about how much money we put in your trade. If we got to replace a transmission, that ain't no $1,000 job. That's an expensive fix, and so the person may end up getting a value a few $1,000s less than what they anticipated because of issues that are leading up to a possible catastrophic failure. So, but they actually go in and they have their technicians go in and do a full evaluation, and sometimes that means that you got to have a full tear down. And whether you know this or not, if you go in and you have a full tear down, that's not an hour job diagnostic. You are going to be paying for that technician to break down that engine, and to pull everything out sometimes is pretty costly. So there's a lot of things involved that go in with having a certified technician check out your stuff, though, and just Joe Schmo down the road who's maybe a good technician but doesn't know how Chrysler or Dodge or Jeep or Ram specifically want it diagnosed, and then you have a recurring issue or it's not quite fixed right. So that's one of the big benefits, and why I have to put a lot of my trust and faith in my service guys, is that we're going to get it done right for you. And we've got the factory backing to help you out if you end up having issues with what's been done. And it's one one of those things you don't want to have to deal with, but if you own a vehicle for a while, eventually you're going to have to pay for some service. You're going to have to pay for some maintenance if you want to keep it running. And that's just the nature of the beast. And I'm also a consumer, so I got to pay those things too. When it comes to buying tires, I got a quote the other day, which through the end of the month, there is a buy 3 get 1 deal on the tires. So really good opportunity to get some nice tires and get a deal on them. I was thinking about getting. And I drive an old truck, so I'm kind of thinking in my mind, man, I put $1,000 or $1,200 in some tires, and it's a no wait. I wish I put that much money in it, but your tires are very important. They're the one thing between your vehicle and the road. So I probably will end up doing that, and it's one of those deals that only comes around every 6 months. Sometimes you'll see it a little more often, but we've got some stuff going through the end of the month on that side. And look, in service, they always got things that they can set you up with. They have oil change packages and stuff like that too. Now I'm not in service. I'm not necessarily saying that may be the best plan for you. There's certain limitations on it. If you don't drive much like me, you might as well just pay for your oil change when it's due, time or mile wise. But for those that drive a lot, those oil change packages usually end up paying for themselves. And our finance managers do help for stuff as well. So, not to get too much into stuff that doesn't have anything to do with me, because I'm in sales. I don't sell the warranties, but I do recommend them. You do have extended service contracts. The extended service contracts, if you keep your vehicle long enough, will pay for themselves almost 90% of the time. Now, there have been customers that I've had that said, yeah, I had it, I never used it. But that's a good thing, really. It means you didn't get let down and put on the side of the road for anything. But they do cost. So, it may end up not being used. But one thing that people may not know is that if you buy that warranty and you don't use it within the time period that you have, say you're halfway through your time period that they have that warranty, well, it's prorated. So anything that you haven't used, it's you get some of that money back. So you can get a lot of it back even if you don't use it necessarily, and you trade in earlier than when that program runs out. You get some of that money back. It's basically like down payment money, going towards your equity, whatever can help get you into that next deal. So there are some benefits that way. Plus, they do sell maintenance packages. Now, those are not cancelable things. You can't cancel it and get money back on a maintenance plan. But, if for instance, you're going to be keeping your vehicle for at least 2 or 3 years, getting an oil change package, especially on something like a diesel, they always end up paying for themselves. So those are things that when you're buying a vehicle from us, consider it. I know some people will just be talking to my finance manager, be like, no, I know you're trying to sell me stuff. I don't want to hear any of that. Listen to them. They sell this stuff for a reason. Of course, that's their job. They do make money selling these products. However, these things make sense. They wouldn't be a regularly offered thing if they didn't make sense for some people. And they may not necessarily always make sense for everybody. But I think it's really important that if you're buying a vehicle, listen to your finance manager. There are some things that really can be beneficial. When I bought my vehicle certified, the last three rims that I bought certified, I did do the wrap. So when it's certified, it ends up being usually a little cheaper to do a wrap because you've already got your 100,000 mile warranty on your powertrain. So they will add basically the bumper to bumper side for less than what you would normally get it on a non-certified vehicle. So there's advantages like that, and I don't sell that stuff necessarily, but I do advocate it because it has actually helped me in the past. When I bought my last Ram, I had a door handle, the passive entry stopped working where you put your hand in the door handle and it unlocks. It's just not unlocking every single time. It was very finicky. And this was in the previous gen Rams. This was what was considered a DS Ram. They were in the DT models now with the new body style. But ended up going outside of the warranty. It was just outside of my bumper-to-bumper warranty, but I bought the wrap. And it was like a $800-900 part. I got to do that with the very small deductible. I think it was a $100 deductible. And then because I didn't use any more of it, when I traded it in, I got, like a couple $1,000s back. So, those things are just worth mentioning. If you're not aware of it, if you don't buy vehicles every day, you might not know about that stuff. But those programs are useful. And the other thing that I really thought, and I wanted to talk to my service writer about this, because really in sales, I rely so heavily on them maintaining a relationship with us and the dealership, because I'm not always going to be, right there talking to them every time they come into service. I need somebody that I can trust, that I can tell, hey, look, don't worry, Bobby back in service. Yeah, there's a Bobby back in service. It's easy for them to remember. They'd be like, hey, Bobby sold me my car. I'll come see Bobby. Or, I got Aaron back there that takes care of his folks. He's really knowledgeable. Jason, who's been, service writer for years and years and knows all different kinds of product lines. My man Ken was my go-to for so long because he was here for so long. But, the thing is that, the service writers are, they're the ones that know what's going on. They can know sort of generally what sort of service. When I go back there to get a pair of running boards quoted, they usually have an answer for me, within like a couple minutes, if not right then. They may know, just depending on the product. Or, if it needs a leveling kit, what kind of service I'm looking for as far as the cost of labor. So that sort of thing helps me when I got somebody that's knowledgeable like that. And then also with the express lane, because those are the people that are going to constantly see my customers, and I need to make sure they're taking care of my folks. So, when they go back there for an oil change, or say they got their tire pressure low because the temperature dropped down to 20 degrees, I want a smiling face. I want somebody to greet them and to have some enthusiasm about taking care of their needs. And, and that's why we as a dealership have to work together. And I think that's something that really important. And like I said, I wanted to talk to my service writer to just get an idea of, what sort of attitude, for instance, they might get back there, or the crazy stories that they have. We have our own little crazy stories. When you're dealing with people in general are funny, man. And that's what really just kind of keeps me in the business, is the relationship with folks. And just every day you get something new. You're not always in the same old rigmarole in sales. It's one of the great advantages of being in the people business, is that you get to see people in all different respects. You get them in their best of times, their worst of times, in something like sales, and especially service, because sometimes there's bad news, sometimes it's good news. Be like, daggone, I'm hearing this flapping noise every time I'm driving. I think I might have a bad bearing, or there's something wrong with my transmission, and it's just like a bag trapped around your axle or something. So, they'll look at stuff, and they're not going to hit you up for a crazy amount of diagnostic when it's something simple like that. Putting air in your tire because you were like, hey, there's a light in there. I don't know what this light means. And it's your tire pressure, monitor system telling you got a low tire. They're not going to hit you up with a diagnostic for that. They treat people right back there. And, of course, you're going to pay a little more when it comes to taking care of major labor issues, but it's going to be done right. And so that's my little podcast about service today. Didn't really go much into sales, but, we do have a new refresh coming soon. Just to kind of change gears here a little bit. The 2027 Chrysler Pacifica's got a fascia uplift, and that I think looks pretty good. And the Chrysler Pacifica has been the most awarded minivan in the United States, as the originator, and of course has the patented Stow and Go. The Stow and Go has been a really great selling point for our product. It's class exclusive. It's patented technology, so nobody else can take it. Basically, where you can fold in those middle row seats into the floor, as opposed to just the rear seats like the Hondas, the Kias, and the Toyotas can do. But minivans have started to see a little bit of a resurgence. There was a dip there in them for a little while, and I don't know if that was because of COVID, maybe because kids weren't going to school. I don't really know, but vans have started to see a uptick in sales, and the Chrysler Pacifica is a great product. And if you're interested in one, let me know. I can keep you posted on when the availability is happening. When I show you a 26, though, just know the interior actually is going to look very similar. So you're going to have some very similar features. It's basically a refresh and not a redesign, which I think is a good thing, because the Stow and Go has been just a wonderful part of our van. And then they started adding things like all-wheel drive. They got the hands-free drive assist that's probably coming. They haven't really announced some of those things, but I know that they're going to be sharing a lot of stuff from the Grand Cherokee line, and active drive assist was something that in the 26 models has now become a standard feature for the altitude models and above. And then you've got it's called hands-on active drive assist, and then you also have hands-free, which is up in the Summit, where it has the eye tracker that will make sure you're paying attention to the road while you got your hands off the wheel. So there's a lot of things that are going to bleed over into that Pacifica, and then we're going to have refreshes coming down the line. But there's of course more things on the horizon, like the Jeep Recon, which is the full all electric Jeep. We probably won't see many of those on the road, but if it's something you're interested in, anything that's specialized like that, we can order it. Ordering does take a while for stuff when it's brand new like that. But say, for instance, you want a manual transmission Wrangler. I don't know why, but suddenly there's been a high demand of that from me talking to people anyways. They say they want one. I don't know whether or not they actually would buy one if it was sitting on the lot is another story. But they say, hey, I'd like to get a manual transmission Wrangler. Well, we don't stock a lot of them, and mostly in general, other dealers don't either. So if it's something you'd be interested in, though, we'll give it a order, take a $500 minimum deposit, and generally speaking, it's about 6 to 8 weeks to put an order in. So got a lot of things ahead for the year. We're coming into the busy season. Hopefully next week I have a guest, and you're not just watching me rattle off a bunch of information and my opinions, and I'll have a conversation with somebody, because I feel like that's always way more engaging. But anyways, I appreciate you watching, and we'll be back next week. I'm going to continue rolling on. If you guys, anybody that watches wants to join, please let me know, and please show up. If you're going to tell me you're going to do the podcast, you got to be here, because I ain't going to ask you again. I plan, and I try to make sure that things are in order, so that this kind of goes without a hitch. And then when things don't go according to plan, I have to kind of reevaluate, what caused that plan to go astray. And this time, I think lesson learned. Have a backup plan, or maybe even a backup guest if necessary. But like I say, things happen, and we'll continue to strive on. But appreciate you watching East Carolina Brides. This is Bobby. We'll see you next week.